Hello, Internet! Welcome back to Cinephiles, a weekly to bi-weekly review series where I, David DeRose, watch randomly selected unwatched movies from my collection and talk about them with you, the Internet. As a reminder, each movie has been picked at random and has gone through a March Madness-style elimination bracket. Today's movie beat out an Academy Award-winning movie about man's ascent to the stars and the triumph of the human spirit, as well as the American version of the King of the Monsters entrance into the 1980s. This film is Cinephiles movie 411, 1991's Subspecies. This is going to be a fun experience. Well, it's going to be an interesting experience. This is going to be an experience because I know absolutely nothing about this movie or series. My entire experience with Subspecies is seeing it and its subsequent sequels on the horror shelves of my local video store as a kid. This series, as well as Warlock and Cinephiles movie 375, Witchcraft, always confused me because they had so many sequels and were every video store, yet I never knew anyone who actually saw them. The only actor of note I recognized in my preliminary superficial search was the late horror icon Angus Scrimm, best known of course from the Phantasm series and Dances with Werewolves. Subspecies was one of the first movies made by Full Moon Productions, which put out some of the most interesting looking horror movies of the 1990s, including Dollman, Demonic Toys, the Puppet Master franchise, and Dollman vs. Demonic Toys. Now, we'll be coming back to Full Moon Productions often during this series, because for some reason I decided to buy, among others, the 8-pack Puppet Master series and the entire Ginger Dead Man trilogy. I spent money on the entire Ginger Dead Man trilogy. What the hell have I been doing with my life? Now, this one I'm going to be watching on glorious VHS. Well, don't have much of a setup for this one, so let's take a look.
In the dark past, humans were their prey, and blood was their life.
I'm Radu. Find him before killing begins again.
Now in modern-day Transylvania, eternal evil has reawakened.
I'm afraid for you. She makes me want again. I must destroy him.
Subspecies, starring Michael Watson and Angus Scrimm of Phantasm. Subspecies. The night has fangs.
Well, that was interesting. Yeah, it was fine. Yeah, I think I just built it up in my head that this was just going to be a really bad movie, but no, it was fine. Yeah, it was okay. If it had a bigger budget, it might have even been really good. But I mean, the acting was fine, the story was fine. It was fine. This is gonna be an interesting review. Might as well get into this. All right, we open in a creepy castle. This is actually something I can really give Subspecies a lot of props for. The sets and locations are really, really good. I mean, they add essential atmosphere to the film. They really take advantage of the filming in Romania. It was really well done. Kudos to you, production designer Radu Korchiova and art director Lucian Nicolo. Kudos. So, in this creepy old castle, we are introduced to the King of the Vampires, played by Angus Scrimm, doing what old vampires did in the 90s, sitting in the dark by a fire and brooding. His brooding is interrupted by his son, Radu, played by Anders Hove, who is by far the most entertaining character in this movie. He knows exactly what kind of movie he's in and hams up every scene. And it's clear he loves it, since he's in every single Subspecies movie, including the upcoming fifth one, due out sometime in 2020. You see, Radu knows that his father is about to bestow the crown of the vampires and the Bloodstone, a MacGuffin source of power, unto his younger son, and Radu wants to usurp the power before he can do that. King Angus Scrim, however, is prepared for such an event. Then this happens. Yeah, most of the vampire lore in this is pretty traditional, but this not only comes out of nowhere, but it's never explained. Maybe it's expanded on in the sequels, I don't know. So, Radu escapes from his cage and, 4 minutes into the movie, kills King Angus Scrim. Probably because they only had enough money in the budget to pay Angus Scrim for 4 minutes. So long, tall man. You will be missed. And here's that we meet our main characters, 3 PhD students who are studying Romanian folklore. We have Lillian, the spunky one, and Michelle, the brainy one, who are coming to stay with their classmate Mara, the Romanian one. Yeah, she really doesn't get much of a defining personality trait. The town that they're staying in not only celebrates vampires, but they're about to have an entire festival about them.
We're smarter than we look.
And since the festival's popular in sold-out hotels, they get to stay in the Fortress, an old fort that some say was once the site of a vampire slaughter. This, of course, excites them. Oh, and this fortress just so happens to have coffins in the alcove right above their room. While studying the folklore, they find a creepy castle that nobody has ever talked about in this town that celebrates vampires. So obviously their first thought is, let's go inside.
We're smarter than we look.
Trying to get inside, Lillian gets unknowingly bitten by Radu, who lives in this castle. But the girls go back to the fortress before he can go any further. And here we meet Stefan, the only other boarder at this fortress that just so happens to hold coffins. Stefan is a zoology student who operates mainly at night and is most definitely not a vampire. Nope, no chance whatsoever. The girls visit an old gypsy woman, and that name is being nice. In the credits, she is listed as Old Crone. And get some of the expositional backstory. Centuries ago, the town was under siege, so the gypsies made a deal with the vampires to save the town. In return, they gave them some old ruins outside of town, and the Bloodstone, our MacGuffin, that contained the blood of saints, which would give the vampires power. The old woman, I really don't want to call her the Old Crone, it just feels so mean, warns them not to go to the ruins. So of course they go to the ruins.
We're smarter than we look.
And then take a nap outside the vampire-infested ruins.
We're smarter than we look.
And then, when they wake near dusk, decide to take a shortcut back to the fortress through some spooky woods outside vampire-infested ruins at night.
We're smarter than we look.
Radu and his finger-spawned hench-goblins almost attack, but definitely not a vampire Stefan is there to help them get back safely. After getting the girls back to the fortress, get this, hold on to your hats, everybody. We find out that definitely not a vampire Stefan. He's a vampire. What? Yep, Stefan is the youngest son of King Angus Scrim and Radu's half-brother. Meanwhile, Radu has taken a liking to Lillian and has returned to feed on her again. And at 34 minutes, we get our first boob shot, which honestly is a lot later in the film than I was expecting. Stefan and Carl, his Renfield and the girl's host, drive Radu away, but not before he drank enough from Lillian to make her very ill. But don't worry about your friend's sudden, mysterious blood-related illness in this vampire-infested town. Let's go to the celebratory vampire parade.
We're smarter than we look.
After staying in this creepy parade for about 5 minutes, Michelle decides to leave the party to go check on Lillian, abandoning Mara, which actually leads to a kind of a creepy scene where she's taken by Radu. Okay, it kind of lost the creepy at the end there. Radu has Mara chained up in his dungeon in another boob-revealing shot, and as he goes to make his evil plans, he leaves his little finger-spawn hench-goblins to guard her. There's a fingering joke here somewhere. Lillian dies from her vampire-inflicted wounds, and to keep the villagers from dismembering her corpse to keep her from coming back as a vampire, they decide to bury her outside the vampire-infested ruins where the villagers don't go. Surprise, surprise, she becomes a vampire.
We're smarter than we look.
After finding out that Stefan is a vampire, Michelle, Stefan, and Renfield Carl go to storm Radu's sleeping place to finally kill him. Stefan, being the man, insists on going alone, leaving Michelle and Renfield Carl in a nearby church where vampires cannot enter. As long as they stay inside this church, they will be safe. Of course,
Michelle! Let me in! Oh my God, it's Lillian. We gotta let her in!
No, it's a trick. She's a vampire. If you let her in, I will shoot her.
We're smarter than we look.
Michelle wakes up shackled next to Mara in the dungeon. Somehow she was able to keep her shirt. She manages to break loose of her chains with a stake that Stefan dropped before he was captured. Oh yeah, he got trapped by a net. She and Mara try to escape, but... Yep, Mara's a vampire now, and along with vampire Lillian, Michelle gets recaptured. After that, shit happens really fast. Radu plans to eat Michelle in front of Stefan. No, not like that. Carl comes in like a mother friggin' boss, kills vampire Mara and frees Stefan. There's a sudden sword fight. Vampire Lillian gets crushed by a chandelier. Radu gets staked, but I don't know if that's enough.
You can't destroy me, Stefan. Nothing can.
Okay, that's probably enough. So Michelle and Stefan make out because they're in love after about a day of knowing each other. But what's this? She's been bitten by Radu! And so to save Michelle, Stefan eats her. Not like that. Yeah, to save Michelle's soul or whatever, Stefan turns her into a vampire. And our movie ends with the little finger hench goblins signaling a sequel, maybe? Since I already said that Anders Hove was in all 4, soon to be 5 Subspecies movies, you probably already guessed that he was only mostly dead. And roll credits. That was Subspecies, and yeah, it was fine. 3 out of 5. I'm kind of surprised about some of the ratings on this. I mean, Rotten Tomatoes, it has an 83% to 51% critic audience score, and it's got a 5.7 on IMDb. Those are some pretty good ratings for something that I was really expecting to be bad. This is the only one I actually own, but the entire Subspecies franchise is available for free at Tubi.com, as well as a plethora of other Full Moon Productions catalog. And it's a cheap rental on Amazon. I'll probably get to more of this franchise at a later date, but I have a lot of movies to get to first. No trivia for this one. As always, any questions, comments, suggestions, please email me, cinephilesassemble@yahoo.com, Instagram @cinephilesassemble, Twitter, _Dave_DeRose. I'll see you next time.